At a recent financial literacy session that I ran was on KiwiSaver. One of the participants wanted to know who was the best provider to invest in, what is the best plan that they could invest in, and how can they find the best provider? So those are great questions. So what we use, and I'm going to share my screen, we use the sorted tools. So this is sorted.org.nz. These are the tools that we use in the Retirement Commission with running financial literacy sessions. They are completely unbiased. They are not going to make recommendations as to what fund you should invest in or what provider. That is entirely up to you. So if I look here, I've gone onto the screen that can compare funds, and this is just defaulted to the conservative fund. If I hover on it, you can change it to whatever fund you're in or want to be in. Now on the left, it's also highlighted the fees, and it's then listed the companies. So the first one that's come up is Generate, and it's their Stepping Stones fund. I don't know anything about this. You can click on it and it will tell you about it. And it's just saying that their fees are 0, which seems awfully weird. If we look at it, it will bring up another screen and hopefully show us what the fees are. So this fund here, the Stepping Stones 36 to 45, it has a fee of about 1.64. So the average is for the funds that are invested in something similar. The average is 1.2, but this particular fund is charging 1.64%. Now, if I just go back, you can see here under service, it's rated as a 4-star out of 5, and the returns, it's giving you a return of about 6.5%. Now, if you scroll down, you can see that there are a lot of different funds under here, fund providers, and this, like I said, is all under the growth. You can choose whichever one you want. Now, that is if fees are important to you. Now, just remember that fees are not necessarily the be-all and end-all. So, especially if you're going to look for the cheapest one, may not necessarily always give you the highest returns. So you've got to do your research. Now, for someone else, service might be more really important. So how much service you actually get from your provider. So if we look at the service, this one here under New Zealand funds, in fact, New Zealand funds ranks in the top 4 on my screen here. It looks like they must give very good service. And in fact, consumers have given these 4 funds a 5 out of 5. And you can see here the returns. Now, looking at the returns, look at the variation between them. I don't know what they're invested in. I haven't gone that far to find out what the asset mix is of those funds. But you can see here we've got a 3% return ranging out to an 8.64. That's huge. So you've got to see what's important to you. Now, speaking of returns, you can click on the returns tab, and then it will actually rank the fund providers who's had the highest returns. Now, just remember as well that returns will differ. They can be high for one year, and then obviously the following year they could end up being the worst performer. So you've just got to keep a look at that. The other way you can also look, if you want, is you can type in your own fund. So I'm just going to type in Westpac. Here we go. You can see here that it brings up their growth fund, and they've got a 4 out of 5 stars, and that's given an average return of just under 5.5%. So if you want to compare your fund, what you're in at the moment, you can just type it in. I hope that's helped. That was just one of the questions that came up in a recent financial literacy session on KiwiSaver. And like I just said, that's a really good place to go. Go to the Sorted website and you can compare one fund to a next there and make sure that your fund is doing exactly what it is that your goal is for that fund. I hope that helps.